welcome back, and it's good to have you part of our Monday morning podcast. But actually, we're doing this on Sunday afternoon. We just finished our three services, and I told you we had some special guests that were going to be here at this week. And these are the elders in our church, and we meet once or twice a month. And so I'm just going to introduce them from my left, and obviously be on your right. Closest to me is Richard Hassel. Hello, Richard.
Hello.
And then Richie Leone, a little bit under the weather today, right, Richie?
A little bit.
I appreciate you being here. Jack Houchin on the far outside.
Hi there.
And Ryan Hackman.
Hello.
And these are our elders here. And today, guys, we talked about a faith that goes. And we've kind of finished up this whole series, moving forward in our faith. And I probably saved what I think would be the most explosive of the five talks of us going out with our faith. And just kind of, what were your impressions of the talk?
I really enjoyed it, Pastor Bob. I guess the most important bullet point for me personally was Fran. Many times I start to pray and start thinking about who to pray for, and the list can seem long or it can seem maybe disorganized. But immediately, as you challenged us to kind of think about people, names came to my mind, and I took notes, and it gave me a focal point to kind of make a priority to, at a minimum, say, okay, if nothing else, I can take a couple of minutes to pray for four people. And interestingly enough for me, the four people on the list are people that have stated in my life at times that they have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and I don't really know if that's true, from family to neighbors. And I thought it was kind of interesting that the first names that came to me were people that have said that they believe, but I'm not sure, and they clearly at this point in their life are not serving or actively showing, if they do believe in Jesus Christ, that they are living that out.
What's kind of cool, Jack, is that passage from Ephesians chapter 1 that we looked at today is that we're praying that God would give them spiritual wisdom, and that the spiritual blinders maybe be taken off, because it's not really for us to determine whether somebody's a follower or not, because we can't do that.
Right.
But what we can do is we can pray that their spiritual blinders be taken off.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not living the way, so God would reveal himself to them, and so that's still a very active prayer. So, what else, guys?
I think for me, that you mentioned your most explosive message, and I'm thinking to dynamite. Obviously you're talking about the Spirit of God in us, and I think sometimes for me, I forget that Spirit, and I don't rely on that Spirit, and I don't fully access that Spirit, I guess, and don't have that power evident in my life when it could be or should be. And so it was just kind of a reminder for me that it is a powerful Spirit, not just, oh hey, it's there to remind you when you're, to trigger your conscience or something like that, but definitely a spirit of power.
Yeah. I wonder how many of us, and I'm right there with you, that we know that we have the Holy Spirit because we've been told we have the Holy Spirit living within us, but I don't think that a lot of us realize what that really means. I know that, I'll raise my hand too, that that's kind of tough. How about you, Richard?
Yeah, I think the word go is very important. It's not a request when you sort of feel like it. It's a command. And so if we call ourselves a follower or believer of Jesus Christ, and we don't go, then we're disobeying. It's as simple as that. And I know there are reasons why people are reluctant to share their faith, and this morning you concentrated mainly on what we say, but we show people our faith by how we live.
That's right.
In fact, our words mean nothing unless we live, in the way that Jesus would want us to. So go is a command. We either obey or we disobey.
That's right.
Yeah.
Richie, you were sick this morning, so it's unfair for me to
but,
say.
I mean, I can piggyback on what was shared, and looking through our live Bible app, and it's how we live and what we say. But I can piggyback on what Ryan says, that sometimes we understand that we're to go and trust God, but it feel like it's us doing the speaking, and not trust that that's the power of God, that He will prepare things for you,
and we'll give the wisdom to the people that we're praying for, and it's the power. It's God actually talking through us, hopefully, and but there is that fear, right? There's a fear. I know for me, it's hard to speak it and to share it. It's a lot easier to try to live it, and hopefully that catches somebody's attention and say, well, there's something a little different about you, and maybe share, well, I went to church and use the drum playing as a, oh, what do you do? Well, why do you got to go to church earlier? I play drums. So a vehicle to that. So, but again, we got to understand that we do have that power, or it's God's power that's gonna do it, but for me, orally, there's a little bit of that fear, and I tend to try to live it instead of actually verbalize it.
Well, speaking of fear, let's show them that we're human, okay? Because there's nothing special about any of us other than we're followers of Christ that are being led by God. Let's just briefly go around the table. Jack, what's your biggest fear in sharing the gospel with other people? What's your biggest fear?
Not being accepted.
Okay.
I probably, like anybody else, it's not a good thing to admit, but I don't want people to think, the people that might be ridicules or mockers, I want to be respected, and I don't want to be perceived as the Bible thumping guy.
Okay. Good. Right?
I think for me, actually, again, we talked about this morning, I know it's sometimes kind of irrational, but it's there nonetheless, is my fear is that I'm somehow going to reflect badly on God, that I'm going to mess up what I should be saying, or even worse, that they're going to say, well, that's what you say, but I saw you do this, which doesn't, equate, it doesn't align with what you're telling me right now. And so I generally, it scares me that I'm not going to live up to what I need to be in order to be able to talk to somebody else.
Richard?
I've been a Christian now for over 40 years, but when I first became a Christian, I was blessed to be in a group that went out and evangelized, talked to people, and I was pretty scared then. But I found that sort of once you had a few conversations, you got more confident. But as the years progressed, I realized that I didn't really have to think about the words I'm saying, because I have the Holy Spirit in me. It's taken quite a few years to realise that God does all the work, and so I'm really relaxed now. And so I come from England, so I'm asked the question quite often, why are you here? Not just in Yuma, but in the States. And I said, God brought me here, and so I just tell them that, and said the main reason I stay, we're in Yuma, Missy and myself, is that we found a great church in Oasis. And then they start asking questions, and away you go. It just, it takes time, but it gets better, and it becomes just more natural, because it's not about you, it's about God doing the work.
But you do have the unfair advantage of your accent.
It's
got a little people over people.
I've really got an American accent. No.
Yeah, I can piggyback on what Jack and Ryan said about, inherently our feeling is to be accepted, and that could be something that you might lose that acceptance in the eyes of some people, and obviously not sharing it the concise way, or maybe making a mistake in that. But my vehicle I would aspire to be where Richard is, obviously. But in my vehicle, it's been kind of an informal, in the classroom. Sometimes my lessons tend to gravitate to that sometimes, and the students ask questions, and it's kind of neat to see how God works this way. I just had that experience this week. Matter of fact, it's funny we're talking about this, that our lesson just tended to kind of death and life and hell and where do you go, just a book that we were reading. And so students said, so what do you believe, Mr. Leo? And I said, well, funny you asked that. And and so it's great. And with our baseball players, I've gone to the freedom of, they know, we kind of use an informal way of praying. I said, hey, it's up to you, before we start throwing before a game. So I've been able to share that with our players, and it's not mandatory. I said, hey, this is what I like to do, and I believe in it, and they know that, and so it's kind of neat. But there's still, I've gotten comfortable in those environments with my students and players. I would love to get comfortable in the environment with my neighbors and my family, stuff like that.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Richard.
Can I just, I didn't really answer the question. But, after 40 years of being a believer, my biggest fear is of not sharing the gospel when the opportunity arises. That's my biggest fear now, which, so I just want to obey when the opportunity arises.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping that you hear from these guys that they love the Lord, and that we all have some fears when it comes to sharing the gospel. And I'm hoping that when we do this seminar in March, remember it's the third Sunday at 1 o'clock, we're going to talk about how do you share your faith. I'm going to invite these guys to be here along with me. I want them to come in. I want them to talk with you. And then I want to give us some practical application and some practice doing that, because the more you do it, if you have 40 years, Richard, it does get easier. You do learn to swing a conversation or take an opportunity that comes before you to be able to share. And we'll talk about that on that seminar. There are a lot of things coming up in our church. Talk about a busy month of February and even into March and the summer. There's all kinds of things coming up. Next Sunday is 101. If you've not signed up to learn about what our church believes and how we practice, it's not too late. We have about 45 of us, so we're going to move it over to the other building. We've got childcare and lunch. The following week, we have 201. We have a Valentine's mystery dinner. If you haven't signed up, we would probably still accept you. We have about 40 or 50 of us that are going to be here for that on Friday evening. We have DR mission trip planning coming up. We have a New Life pregnancy walk, run, CrossFit, all these different things that are in your bulletin. Make sure you read that. And then next week, we're going to start our new series. And if there was one thing I wanted you to get this morning, is it's not hard to take and hand out these cards. Every one of us who picked up a bulletin this week got 9 of these cards, and it's not that hard to hand these to your family and your friends, your associates, your neighbors, and ask them to come to church. Like I said, next week we'll have breakfast for all 3 services. It's free next week. What a better deal. Free breakfast at Oasis Church. We have a great children's ministry that's going to be prepped and ready. Mike's going to be ready on Wednesday for any new kids that are youth to come alongside of us. But what a great way to invite people into church, a place where you can receive the greatest gift, and that being Jesus Christ. This podcast went a little bit long today. It's because I have 4 elders, and they are full of wisdom and spiritual guidance, and they won't all follow strong. But thanks for listening, and looking forward to seeing you next Sunday. God bless you.